Bodies in suitcases, sudden disappearances, and unexplained deaths. The world of cryptocurrency seems to be experiencing an alarming number of millionaire murders in recent years. But are these just a series of coincidental tragedies? Or is there something far more sinister at play here? With such a volatile and unregulated market, hundreds of millions of dollars up for grabs, and some of the most experienced hackers on the planet trying to find their own slice of the pie, it is no wonder why so many choose to avoid this type of investment entirely. Today, we're traveling across the globe to look at 3 of the most prolific deaths in cryptocurrency, the mystery that surrounds their deaths, and the possible forces at play in the dark. And I'm sure that all 3 of these stories will leave you heavily concerned. Many of these stories are absolutely insane, and ones that I've thought about for weeks now. But when people discuss the risks behind crypto, they are usually talking about your financial security and not your actual safety. Well, this video puts a whole new perspective on that theory. Now, with that said, please grab yourself a coffee, pull up a seat, and get ready for the deep dive. This is the dark underbelly of the crypto world. Buenos dias, folks. We begin our video today in Argentina, officially known as the Argentine Republic. As one of the largest countries in the world, Argentina has a population to boot, with more than 47 million residents calling this place home. The country is famous for its excellent wine and food, competitive football, music, and of course, tango. Although Argentina's recorded crime rate is relatively low when compared to the rest of South America, many argue that it doesn't convict quite as many people as it should, thus of course skewing all results and statistics. But at least statistically speaking, it tends to be safer than its neighbours nearby. However, on July the 23rd, 2023, a dark discovery made by 2 children would do nothing to support that calming statement. Found southwest of Buenos Aires city centre rests a small region known as Ingeniero Buge. Not even 10 square miles in size, Ingeniero Buge consists of many homes, a few parks, and a nature reserve or 2. It is quite normal for kids to play football in the area, and today was no different. But that is when 2 children, only just old enough to be considered as teenagers, stumbled across an inconspicuous suitcase. The suitcase wasn't here in the previous days they'd played next to the stream, and so, quite understandably, their curiosity got the better of them. As they prodded the suitcase and peered through the zipper, they came across a startling discovery, one they could barely comprehend. Found inside lay the dismembered remains of a white man in his 40s. His limbs had been cleanly cut, with both his head and his torso missing. This was a mortifying discovery. The 2 young boys called the authorities immediately, who, no surprise, locked down the crime scene and then took things over from there. While at the crime scene, investigators found the victim's legs and a left forearm in the suitcase, and after checking the nearby stream, they also found a whole right arm. As mentioned, the body parts were cleanly amputated, suggesting that whoever had done this was likely a professional. And although it was not initially clear who the body belonged to, it wouldn't take investigators long to find out. A 4-letter tattoo on one of the hands made it quite obvious. The body belonged to a man named Fernando Perez Algarbo, who had disappeared from the city only 4 days prior. And soon enough, fingerprint analysis would confirm the identity. Now, there were various peculiar details about Fernando's life and the manner of his death, but there would be one thing that everyone would stop to pay attention to, and that was his wealth. Because Fernando was a crypto millionaire. With almost 1 million followers on Instagram, Fernando's profile sported a luxurious lifestyle, supported by crypto and smart decisions. However, judging by the number of likes that some of his posts received, I'm gonna hazard a guess and say that most of his followers were bought. When translated, his Instagram page says, "Tell me what you brag about, and I'll tell you what you lack. Life doesn't owe you anything. He who has magic doesn't need tricks. Now, according to local media, Fernando comes from a rags-to-riches backstory. In his childhood, he used to sell sandwiches and deliver pizzas, before eventually buying rundown vehicles so he could then repair and resell them at a higher price. In an interview, Fernando once said, "I traveled to Paraguay a lot to buy tires. They were much cheaper than in Argentina. This allowed me to refurbish the cars and then resell them at a better price." Moving into his 20s, Fernando transitioned to cryptocurrency, where he is said to have made a fortune by investing and then selling crypto tokens. And by the time he was 24 years old, he had a warehouse full of his own high-end vehicles. In another interview, Fernando said, "I started by investing $100,000 and doubled my profits in 4 days. I started with little study, I didn't have good results. Then I set up an office with 25 traders and realized that I was not the problem. Weak psychology was." Fernando's many Instagram photos show him riding a BMW, Porsche, Bentley, Mercedes, Range Rover, and various other vehicles, many of which were often seen with his cute little dog named Yamas. All of this was peppered between many extravagant photos of him living a lavish lifestyle, often wearing fancy watches and traveling to many exotic locations. After growing up in Argentina, Fernando moved to the United States, where he registered several companies, including a jet ski rental business which was found in Miami. In the months before his death, he decided to move to Spain, occasionally visiting Argentina for family and business-related purposes. But unfortunately, upon his most recent return, something terrible had happened to him, and now his body was found in the river in multiple pieces. 3 days after his limbs were discovered, officers responded to yet another concerning phone call, with this one also being made by another member of the public. Someone had come across a human torso, and after investigating the crime scene, detectives soon found a human head in a backpack nearby. It was very quickly established that both the head and the torso belonged to Fernando. According to his autopsy reports, he was shot 3 times in the chest, though according to some media outlets, it was twice in the back. And sadly, this is where Fernando's story slowly begins to unravel. As it turns out, he had made many enemies in the past, and, being honest with you, most of them had a reason to be angry with him. As detectives began to dig deeper into his profile, they realized that although he had made millions through cryptocurrency investments, he was also in debt to several people and entities. And by the way, we are talking hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt here, not just to local people, but even to local gangs. Detectives would also find more than 200 angry messages in his inbox, so it became clear that he'd pissed off a lot of people. One of those messages read, "I'm going to kill you. I'm going to gouge out your eyes and cut off your hands so that you can't have any more money in your life. I swear on my children that I have no problem going to jail." And that message was from a man named Iglesias, who was owed more than $70,000. Another voice message, which was left by a man named, Adrian, said, "I'm not threatening you. I am telling you that I'm going to rip your head off. The money is mine, and you don't play with mine." Now, neither of these men were related to the gang that he also owed $40,000 to, which I would argue is a far more terrifying entity to make angry. Fernando had also racked up, quote, "irrecoverable debts with Argentina's tax agency," leading some to believe that it could possibly have been an inside job. According to central bank records, one of his businesses, which was named Segepa, had 7 bounced checks which totaled more than 2.5 million pesos, the equivalent of $150,000 or 120,000 British pounds. To add to this, Fernando had more than 25 incidents on his criminal record, including drunk driving and assaulting a police officer. In fact, those very moments were recorded with this video right here. Shortly before his death, Fernando also left a note on his phone claiming that he had lost a lot of money investing in crypto, and that, furthermore, if something happened to him, he had already warned everyone close to him. In the weeks leading up to his death, Fernando had also posted cryptic messages hinting at deceit, betrayal, threats, and even murder. One of these posts showed Fernando in a car with an audio recording saying, "It's incredible how there are such evil people in the world that while you're thinking of helping them, they are there thinking of destroying you." In another post, he said, "Never trust anyone who doesn't show their loyalty to you. end of story. And in another voice note which was sent to his mum, he said, "Hello mum, I needed to clear my head as always. From here, I am realizing two things. That we can't escape from problems, and that problems will follow us." On July the 13th, Fernando messaged his landlord to say that he would vacate the property by the 19th of July. But when the landlord never heard back from him and then found his stuff within the property on that day, she reported his disappearance to the police. Of course, this suggesting that he'd been abducted in that time frame. It was only after examining the suitcase that Fernando's limbs were found in that officers found several documents attached to a family in the local area. Now this led to a search warrant and, eventually, the arrest of a local trans woman named Nicole Almo Chamorra. And by the way, it is confirmed that Fernando did actually owe money to Nicole, and so it is possible that he was murdered to financially settle the score. But saying that, the authorities also believe that even if Nicole is responsible for Fernando's death, they must have had help from other people. Nevertheless, legal proceedings are still yet to begin, and some even believe that Nicole may have been framed in Fernando's death. As you can imagine, the authorities are remaining relatively tight-lipped on the situation, so this story may change a lot in the future. I guess we will just have to wait and see. The investigation continues.